Hi. So we're back for part 2 of the bread making video. We're starting this video at 10:30 p.m. I just want to let you know that the dough that we made yesterday is still sitting in the refrigerator. It's been in there for 19 hours. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But the first thing I want to do while I have the time is to show you how to feed your culture, because I feed my culture twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. And that's what we're going to do right now. So right here, we have some live culture. I have a spoon with which to stir it. I have my electric scale. I have a plastic container to measure the flour. I have pre-measured 4 ounces of water. And I have the high gluten flour that I've been using to feed my culture. One of the most important things I want to tell you is that don't forget when you're measuring to zero out your scale when you put something on top of it. So right now I have this on top of it and it's at 0. So that when I put the flour in, it will measure just the 4 ounces of flour. And I've done that with the water as well. So I'm just going to pop the lid on the culture. And I'll pour in 4 ounces of pre-measured, this is filtered water, by the way. And then I'll pop the lid on this here. And I'm going to start with about 3/4 of a cup. And that's about 4.1, 4.2 ounces. It's 4.1 ounces of flour. I'll just take a tiny bit out and get it down to 4.0. Seal the lid on that. I'll go ahead and pour that in here. And then mix. And I'm just going to mix it all the way through from top to bottom to make sure the flour that I've just poured in is nice and blended. And this will continue to grow. And tomorrow, before I feed it again, I'm actually going to need to dump some out unless I make some more dough and use it. And then I'll take that spoon out, clean everything off, put that lid back on, and your culture is fed. So that's as simple as that. Okay, so we fed our culture and I've cleaned off my board. And I just want to show you what we're going to do with that dough that we made yesterday in the 6-quart container. This was lightly greased with olive oil, don't forget. And it's been sitting in the refrigerator for 19 hours. So now that it's 10:30 at night, before I go to bed, I'm going to take it out of the refrigerator and I'm going to pop the top. And I'm going to leave it sit out overnight with the lid popped so that it can rise just a little bit. And tomorrow morning, after I drop the kids off at school, I'm going to take the dough out and put it on a lightly floured surface. And I'm going to divide this into 2 equal parts. And since I've never done this before and I have no idea how much is in here, the first thing I want to do is take my scale, and I have it set to grams, and it's on 0 right now. And this is measuring 3,044 grams, which is roughly 6 pounds, 11.5 ounces. And what I'm going to do tomorrow is some basic math, because I didn't weigh this canister. So when I take the dough out tomorrow, I'm going to put the canister back on the scale. I'm going to see how much that weighs, and then I'll subtract that from the total weight that I've got, which is 3,044 grams. So I'll weigh this in grams after I take the dough out, and I'll subtract that from the weight, and then I'll know exactly how much the dough itself weighs, and then I'm going to divide that by 2, and I will get 2 equal dough balls, and then we will begin to make our bread tomorrow. So for now, we're just going to leave this right out here. Pop the top and just let it sit. And I'll get back to you tomorrow morning. Okay, so we're continuing with our bread making from last night. This dough has been sitting out of the refrigerator now for approximately 12 hours. It is 10:50 a.m. and I put the dough in the refrigerator at 10:30 last night, and we popped the lid. And this is what it has become. If you remember when we put it in, it was down to about here. And now it's risen past the 4-quart line, so I'm kind of happy that I got a 6-quart container instead of just 4. And I've got 2 floured surfaces here. You can see the one in front of you here, and then there's one right back here, because what I'm going to need to do is dump this out and split this into 2 equal parts to make 2 loaves of bread. I also have 2 dishes of the peppers and olives that I'm going to be incorporating into the bread. There's 38 grams of each. I don't know exactly how much I'll need because I've never done this before, but I'm going to start with the first bowl, and then if I need more, I'll use the second bowl. I've also got 2 proofing bowls. This one has a liner. I'm just going to put the dough when it's finished right in there, and I'll cover it with one of these towels. And I've got a glass bowl here, and I'm going to do the same thing with that. And then we also have our stock pots. And like my cousin Jack says, this is all about time management. So this is going to need a final proof for about 2 hours in my house because it's about 70 degrees in here. In a warmer environment, if your house is 73, 74, 75 degrees, you might be able to do a final proof in about an hour and a half. You'll have to just keep an eye on your own bread. So I know that I have about 2 hours. I know it takes about 20 minutes for my oven to heat up to 450. And I know that I want those pots and lids to both be in the oven heating for about an hour. So after about a half an hour of proofing, I will turn on my oven, put the pots in, and let them preheat and heat up for about an hour and 20 minutes in there on 450 degrees before I take them out and put the bread in. By that point, the bread should be risen nicely, and I'll be able to put it in. So the first thing we're going to do is weigh our canister. Like I said last night, it was about 3,044 grams before I went to sleep. It's now 3,038 grams. And so we're going to have to do some simple math calculations. I have my scraper here if I need it. I'm going to dump this dough out into a floured surface. You can see it has, it's really nice and has a lot of holes in it, a lot of air in there. And it's got some good elasticity in here. So I'll get out as much dough as I can. And I'm just going to put it onto this floured board. That should be good enough. And then I'm going to weigh this canister. And I'm going to subtract 297 grams from 3,038 grams. Okay, so what I've done is I've done some basic math. And it was 3,038 grams minus 297 grams is 2,741 grams. And I divided that into 2 parts, which is 1,370 and a half grams. This is 1,370 grams of dough. So that's about what we have. And we have 2 equal parts. And the next thing I'm going to do is add the peppers. So what I want to do is I'm going to stretch this out. This dough is rather moist. It has about 75% hydration was what the recipe was. And so you want to make sure it's nice and floured so that you can work with it a little bit. And I'm just going to spread it out into sort of a square. And this is the part where you add whatever you want to put in it, whether it's jalapeno and cheddar or olives and peppers, as I'm doing right now. And so I'm going to add these olives and peppers inside and sprinkle them in. And that doesn't look like enough to me, so I'm probably going to use a second bowl, which comes out to 76 grams actually, and that might be too much, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, I'm going to fold this onto itself for all 4 sides. And from what I've watched, I'm just going to stick this scraper underneath. And if it's nice and floured, it should come pretty quickly off the board. So I fold over once. I'm folding this over here. I'm going to fold the bottom over. And then I'm going to fold the top over. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it parallel. I'm not trying to form anything. I just want to get it nice and floured. But I'm rolling it parallel to the board just so it kind of seals itself. Make sure the dough is all worked in there. And you want to flour it really well before you put it in the bowl. And I have a little bit of olives and peppers coming out there, so I'll just go ahead and fold them over and work it in. And my cousin might kill me for this, but it is what it is. And so I have this sort of round dough ball here, filled with peppers and olives, and I'm going to put it into this proofing bowl. Hopefully get it off of the counter here. And that gives it a nice round shape. As you can see, the bowl will keep it nice and round. And I'm going to go ahead and cover that with a towel. And that's going to proof right on the counter for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the temperature of your house. And I'm going to do the same thing with the second piece of dough that I have here. I'll flour the surface really well. And then I'll take this on there, and I'll do the same thing, spreading it out. And I'm going to have to work pretty quickly here, but for now I'm going to need to cut up some more peppers and olives because I used 76 grams of those. So I'll just cut that down a little bit and do the next one. And I'm going to put it back into this bowl, also cover it with a towel and let that proof. I'm going to go pick up my kids from school. When I come back, I'll turn on the oven and let that go for an hour with the pots in it, and then I'll put the bread in and we'll come back and film some more. Okay, so now we're ready for the next process, which is preheating the oven and heating the pots. So what you want to do is you want to set your oven to bake at 450 degrees. And once you get there, you can just throw the pots and the lid right in as it's preheating. I have 2 pots here with 2 lids because I'm going to make 2 loaves of bread. And I'm going to put them both right on the rack and close the oven. And I'm going to let that heat for 1 hour. So as my bread is proofing, like I said, it's all about time management. I started to do that about 10 of 11. And I know that it's going to take about 2 hours. So about 1 o'clock, I'm going to take these pots out using some pot holders, don't forget, because they're going to be scorching hot. And I'm going to take the lid off, and we're going to put the doughs that I made in those pots, and then we're going to put them back in the oven for 30 minutes uncovered, and then we're going to take the lid off and do it for approximately another 30 minutes uncovered. Now, one thing I want you guys to remember is that everybody's oven works differently, and your oven may cook faster than mine or slower than mine. So the first thing I'm going to do is definitely cook it covered for 30 minutes. And then when I take the lid off, after about 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to start checking the color of the top of the bread. And I will know just from watching my cousin do it so many times and seeing all his different pictures of his breads what it looks like. And there are other ways to tell, obviously, if the bread is done on the inside, but basically the outside color and crispiness should tell you you don't want to burn it. So getting it a nice dark brown will be fine. We're going to check on that and see how it works after. So we'll come back when it's time to put the bread into the pots. Okay, so we're back and we're ready to start the next phase of the bread cooking. And the first thing I'm going to show you is that the bread is finished proofing. This one has risen nicely. You can see all the way to the top in the glass bowl. And that's pretty much what it looks like on top. And then I also have the second one that I had put in the proofing bowl, which is to the top. And it's jiggling around in there a little bit, which leads me to believe that it should come out fairly easy. And what I'm going to do now is take the very hot pots out of the oven. This was 450 degree oven. And these pots have been in here for about an hour and 20 minutes now. So just be very careful when you take them out. I'll put this one up front and the lid back here. And I'll put the second one over here. And I have one rack in there. And I'm just going to put these breads in one at a time. What I'm going to do, hopefully, is not destroy them. I'm going to take this plastic scraper, just in case I need it. And I'm going to dump this right into the pot. And this came out really, really easy with this liner. You can see there's nothing left in there. And I'll get my mitts again just so that I can show you what it looks like in the pot. if you can see. And what this pot is going to do is make it a nice round circle. Just keep it its shape. So I'm going to put the lid back on, and I'm going to put that one back in. And I'm setting the timer for 30 minutes. And we'll do the same thing with this one here. And I think that this should come out pretty easily as well. And if actually it's sticking to the glass just a little bit more than it did to the liner, but it's coming. And just use the scraper a little bit there. And so one of the olives has popped out, but we're just going to tuck it right back in. And I'll take the lid, put that back on, and put the second pot in the oven. Now those are going to stay in the oven for 30 minutes. We're going to come back, I'm going to let you see what they look like, and we're going to take the lids off of them. After that, they should cook approximately for another 30 minutes, but we're going to check them at the 20-minute mark. So we'll come back in about 30 minutes. Okay, so as you can hear, our timer just went off for the first 30 minutes. And now we're going to take the pots out of the oven, and we're going to uncover them and put them back in for approximately 20 to 30 minutes. So let's see what they look like right now. We'll take them out one at a time. That one back there. And this has risen really nice. So you can see it's still white, but it's got that split in it. It's still nice and round, and it rose up a little bit. So I'm going to put this back in the oven. And I'm going to do the same with the other. And this again is also nice and round and split and rose nicely as well. So we're going to put them back in, and I'm going to set this timer this time for 20 minutes. Because like I said before, you got to remember that all ovens work differently. And I want to see what this looks like after 20 minutes. What it should look like when it's finished is this. That is a picture of a loaf that my cousin Giacomo cooked, and basically that's what the top should look like. Nice and brown, not burnt when it's finished. And then after it's finished, we're going to take it out and we're going to put it on a rack to cool for about an hour before we cut it. So we'll get back to you when we're ready to do that. Okay, so our timer's gone off again after 20 minutes. So we're going to take this out and see what the bread looks like at this point and see if it needs any more time. And I'm glad I took it out because this bread does not look like it needs any more time. I think 20 minutes was uncovered was just enough. So we have a nice golden brown bread that looks almost like Jack's picture, and I'm quite proud of that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these out and put them on a rack to cool for about an hour. And since I forgot to buy a rack, I'm going to do what any bad chef would do. And I just took one out of my own oven. This is the bottom of the bread. You can see it's not burnt. It's nice and crispy and brown. And this is another way to tell whether it's done or not. At this point, you can kind of knock on the bottom of the bread, and if it has that hollow sound, it should be nice and done inside. So I'll just move this pot out of the way. And we'll get the second one out of there. And we see we have the same nice golden brown color. It's split up top. And I think that Jack's going to be pretty proud of what I did here. At least I hope so, because I know I am. Of course, the real test will come in an hour when we cut it open and taste it. So that's what we're going to do. We'll come back to you in an hour after it's cooled and taste what I've done. Okay, so it's been about an hour that these loaves have been cooling, and I've brought one of them over. I just want to show you what I have here. Obviously a knife for cutting. And I have some Tuscany blend. These are just dipping seasonings. It's a pack of 4. We've already destroyed 2 of them. So we're going to go with the Tuscany blend today. This is a fig-infused balsamic vinegar, and of course the Furtado Coltavita olive oil that I was talking about in another video. And this is just a little dish for dipping. And I have a bread dish for after I slice it up, and I'll just put some on there. So we'll just go ahead and prepare some of that. We'll sprinkle of spice. And of course you don't have to use the olive oil, the seasoning, or the balsamic vinegar. The seasoning and the olive oil will be enough. I like to dip my bread in balsamic vinegar as well, so I'm just going to put a little drop in there. And I'll put that off to the side. I'm just going to take the loaf that I made, one of them, and I'm going to cut it right in half because one of my neighbors has already actually requested a piece. So they're going to get half. And we'll see what it looks like inside. It's got nice fluffy pockets. So I've got a little bit of crust and a lot of nice air pockets inside, so that means it's going to be nice and moist and chewy, and you can see some of the peppers in there, and there's some peppers and olives on this side. It looks like maybe I could have used even more, but when I was folding it over in that process, you could see that it was quite a bit. I see some of these olives here on the outside, so maybe next time when I fold over, I'll just sprinkle a few more before I do folds number 3 and 4 and see how that works out. But this looks pretty good. So I'm going to cut this again. And then there's a nice olive right there. And so I'll just end up cutting it, and I'll dip it and taste a piece and see how it came out. And that's pretty much it for my bread making video. I hope you enjoyed it because I think this looks pretty good. It smells delicious, and I'll make more videos when I do some more flavors. Thanks for watching.